My niece got a total score of 66 in the final exam. I went to her parents' meeting for her. I was half an hour late and slipped in through the back door. A handsome teacher on the podium smiled slightly. No wonder there is the posture of an old acquaintance. It turns out to be the child of an old acquaintance. When we met again, he caught me helping my niece copy homework and praised with a smile, "You write really fast and well." Half a month ago, I resigned and went home to be a full-time daughter. My cousin lives next door to me. He has a daughter who has just entered the 3rd grade. She is at the age when she is the cutest annoying to people and dogs. As soon as she finishes school every day, the first thing she does is to bother me. Today, she stood at the door of my room, hesitating. "Aunt, can I come in?" I was brushing videos and didn't look up. "Say it at the door if you have something." "Thank you, Aunt." As if she couldn't understand human words. She came in pattering, stood beside me and pretended to be cute. "Aunt, our grades are out today. As an elder, I must definitely show that I care about the child's grades." I put down my phone and asked seriously, "How did you do in the exam?" She replied, 66. Passed. "Awesome. Which subject?" Ami smiled, and her dimples showed. "Total score." I was stunned and snatched the report card. 6 in Chinese, 10 in mathematics, and 50 in English. Strong. I gave a thumbs up. If it weren't for being too poor in Chinese and not being able to understand the questions, wouldn't this score be close to full marks? My God. You got 50 in English. Ask your parents to pack up and prepare to send you to be a diplomat? Ami blushed and stammered, "Aunt, we have a parents' meeting tomorrow. Can you help me?" So it's because she's afraid to report it. I rolled my eyes and smiled slyly. "Give me half of your New Year's lucky money." Ami was anxious. "Aunt is robbing." "Then 1/2. Ami was stunned. She counted on her fingers for a long time and then looked at me doubtfully. I spread out my hands and put on an expression that I'm not taking advantage of you. She nodded. "Okay. The parents' meeting is in the morning." The night before, Ami insisted on sleeping with me. The alarm clock rang for half an hour, but we didn't hear it. I got up slowly, had a quick breakfast and went there. I was already half an hour late. Almost all the parents in the class had arrived, and the teacher's voice came vaguely, as if there was a bloodline suppression. My guilty conscience spread belatedly. I slipped to the back door and pushed. The door wasn't locked. I opened the door gently and didn't dare to look up the whole time. Fortunately, Ami's seat was in the last row. Like a fish, I smoothly took my seat. The whole process didn't take more than 2 seconds. Only then did I straighten my back, contentedly, and look up at the podium. Just in time, I met the teacher's eyes on the podium. Ami's homeroom teacher is very young, wearing a thin white shirt with the buttons fastened to the top, revealing a long and fair neck. Behind the black-rimmed glasses, his dark eyes looked at me, with a hint of surprise in them. I gasped. Ami likes this homeroom teacher very much. She keeps talking about how good-looking teacher Shen is in my ear all day long. Very, very good-looking. I don't dare to agree with a child's aesthetics and haven't taken it to heart. Only when I saw him did I realize that he was not only handsome, but extremely handsome. And he is very familiar. I lowered my raised head and bent my straight back. Like a quail, I wished I could bury my head in the desk drawer. After the parents' meeting, I was about to run away. Ami's homeroom teacher said leisurely, "Can Ami's parents stay for a while? I want to discuss Ami's grades with you." I stood at the door, turned around, and showed a stiff smile. "Okay. Teacher Shen na." I went to the office with Teacher Shenan. He leaned against the table and smiled faintly. "Ami's parent? You know that Ami got a total score of 66, right?" I said timidly. I know. Teacher." He took off his black-rimmed thin-framed glasses and put them on the table. His voice was deep. "No wonder there is the posture of an old acquaintance. It turns out to be the child of an old acquaintance. Francisco. Long time no see." I buried my head even lower. It was purely out of embarrassment. I am her aunt. I haven't taught this child. Me. And isn't she your student? You haven't taught her well. At this point, my confidence came. I straightened my back and raised my head, looking at him unyieldingly. Edwin stared at me, making my face hot. Suddenly, he smiled, like spring flowers blooming. It was bright and dazzling. Well, you are also my student. Indeed. I didn't teach well. This student is not that student. We were desk mates for half a year in high school. He had very good grades. He was only in the same class as me, because he didn't perform well in the high school entrance examination. I had average grades. I only entered the key high school because I performed exceptionally well in the high school entrance examination. At that time, my daily routine was eating, sleeping, and asking Edwin. After the class division in the next semester, he entered the experimental class, and I continued to muddle along in my ordinary class. When I learned the results of the class division, I was both disappointed and happy for him. In the future, there will be no ready-made homework to copy. Who wouldn't be sad? I reluctantly asked him, "Am I the best student you have ever taught?" He replied, "I can't agree." This really hit me hard. Now that I think about it. Fortunately not. Otherwise, I would be very worried for the classmates in Nami's class. Now Edwin didn't make things difficult for me either. He just asked me to urge me to study hard during the winter vacation. If there are any problems, I can contact him at any time. To make it easier to contact, he added my WeChat. I kept saying yes and just wanted to get away as soon as possible. When I got back, I said to Ami with deep resentment, "I will never go to your parents' meeting again." Ami was devastated. Why? He is my high school classmate. Imagine if your classmate is your child's teacher. Would you be willing to go to the parents' meeting? Especially when your child's total score is 66. Ami was silent and vowed to study hard during the winter vacation, overtake on curves, and win honor for me. My mom came back at night, seeing me looking half dead. She said she wanted to find something for me to do. What she said was blind date. I screamed, "Blind date? No, my mom had good reasons. Mom doesn't ask you to get married. Look at you staying at home every day without any friends. Go on a blind date. Meet some peers and have some fun." I was very firm in refusing. My mom transferred money to me. When I heard the sound of Alipay payment arriving, I had no attitude. I put my fists together. Listen to the Empress Dowager. Just meet casually and then go eat and drink. My mom is a person of action. She asked me to go to a certain coffee shop at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If I like the person, add contact information. If I don't like the person, say I don't have a mobile phone. On that day, I went there with unwashed hair, an outfit that no one could stand looking at, and a pair of slippers. I arrived early. I ordered a vanilla latte for myself, then a mongable hit frappuccino. Feeling it wasn't enough, I added a strawberry millefeuille cake. When everything was served, I put my hands together. Let's start. I was so absorbed in eating that I even forgot that I was there for a blind date until someone stood in front of me. I put down my fork, took a tissue and wiped my mouth gracefully. I looked up and said casually, "Whatever. Good morning, Teacher Shenhe." Damn it. Why is it Edwin? Edwin's mouth curved slightly. His eyes fell on my face, and then he pointed with his fair finger at the corner of his own mouth. "Is it so delicious? There's food all over your face." I pretended to be calm and wiped it. Politely said, "It's quite delicious. Do you want some?" "Okay." He actually agreed. I had to scan the code and add a portion for him. To ease the embarrassment, I took the initiative to bring up the topic. "Why are you a teacher at Ami's school?" I remember that after graduating from high school, he went abroad to study. "Edwin, my grandma is here. She is sick. I came back to accompany her. So that's it. What about you?" he asked. Weren't you working in Ha's High? He paused for a while and added, I heard it from other high school classmates. At this point, I was a little down. I lowered my eyes and poked the small cake with a fork, saying vaguely, work is not going well. Edwin noticed my disappointment. He didn't ask any more questions, but told some interesting stories about his study abroad and easily distracted me. I listened to him with a smile. Then he naturally suggested, you treated me to dessert. Let me treat you to a movie. Anyway, we are old classmates. I didn't refuse. Unexpectedly, Edwin chose a romantic love movie. The newly released, There Will Be a Reunion. I was sleepy after watching for 10 minutes. Until the end of the movie. He woke me up, let's go, when I walked outside and felt the evening breeze. I was refreshed. He suddenly asked, how was the movie? I touched my head and said honestly, it should be very good. But I fell asleep. Edwin chuckled, then how was your sleep? I gave a thumbs up, really good. The cinema is not far from my home. He sent me back. Downstairs at my house. He said gently, see you next time? Only then did I remember that this wasn't a meeting between old classmates. It was a blind date arranged by my mom. So what did he mean by that? Is he interested in me? I glanced at him. He let me look and was calm and composed. I only have you as a friend here. I don't know where to go to have fun usually. I heaved a long sigh and said loudly, okay. Sis will take care of you. I waved goodbye to him. I didn't know at all that this scene was seen by an old couple who were taking a walk downstairs. They interrogated me. My mom smiled and said, how is it? Daughter? Are you satisfied? That kid is really handsome. I heard he is also a teacher at Ami's school. I sighed, Mom, your news is too outdated. He is not only a teacher at Ami's school but also Ami's homeroom teacher. Moreover, we are high school classmates. I mean, there was no spark between us back then. How could there be one today? However, in my mom's ears, this meant there was a possibility. In the evening, after taking a shower, Edwin sent me a photo. In the dim cinema, I was leaning against his shoulder, sleeping soundly with unkempt hair and a messy face. Did I sleep like this for 2 hours? No wonder when we came out. Edwin's hand was in a strange position, and hadn't moved. It was numb. I'm sorry. Edwin. As soon as I put down my phone, it vibrated again. I thought he was replying to my message. As a result, it was a text message from a strange number, Francisco. I will get married next week. I know we are sorry to you, but Xiao King hopes to get your blessing. Can you come to our wedding? I recognized who it was at a glance and was so angry that I wanted to burst into flames. I will definitely attend your funeral. When will you die? What kind of spring and autumn dream is that cheating jerk having? I angrily sent the message and then blocked it. I also called my best friend and ranted for 2 hours before falling asleep in a daze. When I got up at noon and saw Edwin's reply from last night, I was taking a shower just now. It's okay. Quite a contrast. In the afternoon, Ami came to bother me again and asked if I could help her with her homework. Her mother said that she had to write 10 pages for each subject to go on a trip with them. I'm lazy. She threatened me. I told Grandma that you tricked me out of my lucky money. I asked Li Hua yesterday. She said that half and 1/2 are the same amount. This kid. Okay. I gave in. The big and the small took their homework and hid in the community like thieves to copy. This kind of work is done at home. And I feel guilty. She wrote in English, which she is best at. I took on Chinese, which is her worst subject. The two of us wrote very seriously. A voice interrupted. You write really fast and well. I said proudly, of course. Elementary school 3rd grade homework. Easily done. The next moment, I stopped writing. This voice. Something's wrong. As I looked up, Ami and I were stunned at the same time. Edwin. Teacher Shen Han. We lowered our heads and followed Edwin home dejectedly. At home, my mom was setting the tableware in the dining room, and my dad was busy in the kitchen. Teacher Shen He. You're here. While greeting Edwin warmly, my mom asked me and Dami in confusion. Your dad and I just went to buy some groceries. Why did you take Kami out and also run into Teacher Shen? I was so embarrassed that I couldn't say a word. I secretly winked at Edwin, hoping that he would help me out for the sake of our old classmate relationship. Edwin curved his lips. Francisco and Dami were doing homework downstairs. My heart immediately tightened. If my mom knew that I was helping Ami with her homework, she would definitely scold me to death. Wicked Edwin. My mom was puzzled. What homework is Francisco doing? Edwin changed the topic. Francisco was tutoring Ami with her homework downstairs. I happened to run into them when I came in. Ah, good person. I breathed a sigh of relief and blinked gratefully. So that's it. Our Francisco really loves Ami very much. My mom believed it and invited everyone to sit down. Teacher Shen. Sit down. I only found out yesterday that you and our Francisco are high school classmates. What a coincidence. Edwin sat down politely and gave sincere answers to all my mom's questions, like checking the household registration. My suspended heart slowly settled down. The encounter downstairs just now was really thrilling. Edwin said that my mom invited him to come for a home visit and have a meal by the way. My mom is really something. She has set up her daughter. My cousin and his wife are not here. What home visit? My dad brought out the last dish. In the middle of the meal, they started chatting. My mom showed her true intention and said with a smile, Nanzu, our Francisco doesn't have many friends after returning to the town. I hope you can take her out for a walk when you have time. Otherwise, she will be bored if she stays at home all the time. Edwin agreed gently. His considerate appearance instantly captured their hearts. After eating, he asked me to see him out. He walked in front. I followed behind like a quail. When he stopped, I bumped into his back. Edwin said helplessly, Do you like walking behind me so much? I rubbed my forehead and said hesitantly, Thank you for not betraying us. Edwin looked at me. His brown eyes were extremely gentle. Don't do this again in the future. Ami's foundation is too weak. Her winter vacation homework can help her consolidate the foundation. I raised my finger. Absolutely. If Ami doesn't understand something, she can come to me. I will tell her. Edwin hummed. I chuckled and my steps became lighter. Edwin, why did you walk to the back of the community? There is only one gate in our community. As soon as you enter, it's the building where we live. Are you lost? I was too nervous and walked around the community. Unexpectedly, I caught two disobedient kids. I was puzzled. Nervous about what? He turned his head, only showing me his flushed side face. I thought it was meeting the parents. I felt it was too fast. Edwin quickly changed the topic. Francisco, I helped you once. Can you also help me with a favor? My curiosity was piqued. Sure. What favor? Pretend to be my girlfriend and have a meal with my grandma. Okay? Edwin has gone on a blind date. His family must be urging him very hard. In that case, out of reciprocity, I must not refuse. I patted my chest. No problem. At the appointed time, I rode my electric bike over. Edwin's grandma's self-built house is very beautiful. It's a small 3-story villa. Emerald green vines crawl out from the iron gate. Quiet and elegant. I was just about to ring the doorbell when Edwin came out supporting a silver-haired old woman. Edwin opened the door. I greeted them with a smile. Hello, Grandma. I am. Before I could finish, his grandma came over and held my hand. Francisco. I expected that Edwin had mentioned it in advance and nodded vigorously. I am Francisco. Nanzu. I really couldn't say the word girlfriend, and said vaguely, friend. Grandma smiled very kindly. The wrinkles on her face bloomed like flowers. I know. You are the person our Nanzu likes the most. Is this exaggeration too much? I glanced at him. He actually avoided my gaze. I had to bite the bullet and say, "He is also the person I like the most." She patted my hand gently. "Good. Good. As long as you like each other." I blushed. This is really ambiguous. Old people like to recall the past. Grandma held me and told me many things about Edwin when he was young. I am not good at getting along with the elderly. My grandparents passed away long ago. My mom is not close to my grandma and grandpa. But Edwin's grandma gives me a very kind feeling. I listened to her tell interesting stories about Edwin when he was a child and also laughed along. After eating, we sat in the backyard. She held my hand. There was a green jade bracelet on her wrist, which made her look even more emaciated. She talked about Edwin's high school days. That child's parents attach too much importance to grades. As long as he is not number one, they will scold him. I rarely saw him smile. Until he went to high school. When he came back, he always mentioned you to me. He said that your grades were not very good. But you had a good attitude and were happy every day. It made him feel that going to school wasn't so hard anymore. I smiled on the surface but secretly glared at Edwin. Why did he speak ill of me behind my back? Grandma's voice became smaller and smaller. When I looked, she had closed her eyes and fallen asleep. Edwin carried Grandma back to her room. As soon as he came out, I questioned him. He had a good attitude of admitting his mistake. "It's my fault. I was relentless." "Humph. Even if it's the truth. You can't talk nonsense." Edwin agreed patiently. It's my fault. I definitely won't do it again in the future." His attitude made me embarrassed to continue blaming him. I just warned him that there would be no next time. Don't damage my image in the eyes of the elders. Okay. I remembered Grandma's abnormally thin hand and mentioned it with some worry. Edwin's expression darkened. There was lingering sadness in his eyes. Half a year ago, it was found out that there is a tumor in her brain. It's malignant. She is old. The doctor recommends conservative treatment. Grandma wants to return to the town. Grandpa also passed away here. So I accompanied her back. His words wrapped a touch of sadness around my heart. The topic of death is always heavy. Any comforting words are in vain. I said, if Grandma wants to talk to someone in the future, she can find me. I'm Midel anyway. In high school, no matter when I asked him how stupid a question, he would answer me step by step. I remember during the time we were desk mates. The boy in front of us laughed at me for asking such stupid questions to Edwin. Why did Edwin still answer me? Edwin said very seriously, because she doesn't know now. She asked now. This is repaying kindness after 6 years. He looked at me. There was a glimmer in his eyes. Francisco. Thank you. Back in the community, I encountered an unexpected guest. I covered my nose and pretended not to see him disgustedly. He jumped out and stopped me. Francisco. I want to talk to you. I took a step back in disgust. I have nothing to talk to you about. Santiago took out an invitation and stuffed it into my hand. This Saturday is my and Geranium's wedding. We all hope you can come. I looked at him like he was crazy. Santiago. Asking your betrayed ex-girlfriend to attend your wedding with the mistress. Don't you think it's absurd? Aren't you afraid that I will ruin your shabby wedding? Yes. Santiago is my ex-boyfriend. We knew each other when we were very young. We can be said to be childhood sweethearts. But in junior high school, his family moved to the city. After we were admitted to the same high school, we got in touch again. After graduating from high school, he confessed to me and I agreed. Since then, we have been in a relationship for 4 years. During this period, I once thought we would get married. I have a careless personality and forgetful. Santiago is meticulous and can consider very subtle points. I think there is no one more compatible than us. After graduating from university, we entered the same company. I thought so until I discovered that he was secretly kissing Geranium, the daughter of the company's general manager, during a team-building activity. No one in the company knew that Santiago and I were in a relationship. After Santiago and Geranium's relationship was exposed, My leader repeatedly rejected my plan and also belittled and suppressed me in front of all my colleagues. Under the double blow of relationship and work, I resigned in anger and returned to my hometown. Unexpectedly, Santiago still had the nerve to ask me to attend their wedding. Who gave them the courage? Liang Jingru? Santiago obviously also knew that this request was absurd. His expression was a little embarrassed. Some of my college classmates will come. They know that we were together before. If you don't come, I'm afraid they will think that King is the third party. I sarcastically said, isn't this the truth? You are a cheating man and she is a mistress. Are you afraid to be talked about after doing it? He said urgently, King is pregnant and can't be wronged. His words were like a punch in my face. Pregnant? That means they were together behind my back, for at least 3 months. At that time, we had just entered the company. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I bit my teeth tightly, and couldn't help slapping him in the face. Santiago, why don't you die? I shook him off and left. Santiago was slapped and turned his face aside. In the next second, he caught up and grabbed my hand. His tone was low and carried a hint of threat. If you don't agree, I will tell your aunt about what happened during your internship in your senior year. I was shocked and looked at him in disbelief. At the end of my senior year internship, my immediate supervisor said he would hold a farewell ceremony for me. For 3 months, I got along well with my colleagues. I drank a few more glasses and asked Santiago to pick me up. After it was over, I waited for him in the box. The supervisor sent off my colleagues one by one. Finally, he locked the door. He walked towards me with a smile and sat beside me. While touching me, he asked, Francisco, do you want to stay and work in the company after graduation? I can help you. You are very excellent. I had drunk alcohol and had no strength. Get away. I will call the police. He pressed on me and took off my clothes. I struggled desperately, scratching and kicking him. It was all in vain. At the last moment, Santiago finally opened the door with the restaurant staff. The supervisor was caught. He argued that he was drunk and also said that I was willing. It was just that we didn't agree on the price halfway through. Fortunately, in the end, he was sentenced to 5 years. The company made a decision to fire him. At that time, my grandma had just passed away. Although my mom is not close to grandma, she was still very sad for a long time. If she knew about this again, she would definitely collapse. So I didn't tell them at that time. Santiago was distressed and remorseful afterwards. He said it was all his fault for not coming earlier. But now, this incident has actually become a sharp sword in his hand, stabbing at me, trying to make me yield. There was a bit of struggle in Santiago's eyes. But soon, only coldness remained. If Aunt knows, she will definitely be very sad. My eyes were red and I trembled as I took the invitation. Santiago, you are really despicable. Fine. I will definitely go to your wedding. Go in style. I was arranged at the table with Santiago's college classmates. The universities we attended were in the same university town. He often came to find me, and I occasionally went to find him. So I knew all his good friends. A senior who chatted well with me leaned over and said, I was shocked when I received the invitation. At that time, who didn't think that you two would get married? After she started the topic, the girl sitting on my other side couldn't hold back the glittering gossip light. We were also saying that he got married to someone else less than half a year after graduating. Is it because the senior was afraid that I would be angry and took back the conversation? Having different goals and breaking up peacefully is normal. Didn't Francisco come to the wedding? I didn't say anything. This is Santiago's purpose. Using me as a raft to block the mouths of onlookers. Look. My ex-girlfriend has come. How could it not be a peaceful breakup? In the meantime, the big screen was playing their happy moments one by one. Watching stars by the sea. Strolling on the road late at night. Working late into the night together and then sharing the same midnight snack. Santiago prepared a birthday surprise for Geranium. I like you, that he had played for me before. On that day, they kissed affectionately and took their first couple photo. Looking at these, I felt like a fool. Being kept in the dark and being fooled to my heart's content. No wonder. In the second month after entering the company, Santiago suddenly became much busier. Every time I looked for him, he said he was working overtime. In e-commerce, women are used as men, and men are used as animals. We were in different departments and our workstations were not on the same floor. How would I know if it was true or false? I felt sorry for him, and prepared a lot of delicious food for him. I often went to help him clean up. In their shared chat on WeChat, Geranium said, "Your room is so tidy. It seems that you are a very planned person." Yes, I am planning to get closer to you step by step. Damn it. I squeezed the cup so hard that it creaked. Perhaps my anger was too obvious, compared to the lively atmosphere at other tables. Our table could be said to be completely silent, but they had a lot of eye contact. Presumably, they had already discussed it hundreds of times on their phones. During the toast session, Santiago and Geranium brought a large group of people to our table. Santiago was such a good actor. Calm and natural, yet full of sincerity. "Thank you for coming to my and King's wedding. We have received your blessing." Geranium was wearing a slim-fitting toast dress, and her stomach was slightly bulging. As she stroked her stomach and looked at me with a smile, there was obvious mockery and pride in her eyes. "Yes, we and the baby have received it. Proud of having a fickle big baby?" I moved the chair away, stood up, looked directly at these two people, and raised my glass to them. "Thank you prematurely. I didn't bring any blessings." Santiago suppressed his smile and his eyes carried a warning. "Francisco, I am very sorry about what happened during your internship in your senior year, but you can't take it out on me." Geranium sneered and said sarcastically, "Santiago, don't say that. This is not your responsibility." When you told me, I was also very distressed. My hands and feet turned cold. He not only threatened me with this but also mentioned it casually as a topic of conversation. Looking at the people in front of me, I found him extremely strange and terrifyingly so. In my memory, the little boy who brandished a wooden stick in elementary school and said he wanted to act chivalrously is dead. The boy who always came to our class door in high school and asked if I wanted to go home together gradually disappeared. The person who comforted me that night in college and said it wasn't my fault and that I was the victim was gone. Santiago became extremely loathsome, but they thought this could threaten me, which was a big mistake. I splashed wine on Santiago, causing a chorus of exclamations. I raised a smile and my voice clearly reached everyone around. "I should be the one who regrets not finding out that you were together earlier. It was so presumptuous for you to have a child before Santiago and I broke up." The surroundings suddenly erupted. "Ah, it's not a peaceful breakup. It's cheating. Then how could he have the nerve to invite his ex-girlfriend to the wedding? This is so shameless. Santiago is actually such a person. I misjudged him." Santiago was really angry. Sparks almost popped out of his eyes. "Francisco, don't joke around." Geranium's father came over and frowned. "Santiago, what's going on?" Santiago gritted his teeth. "Francisco, I know you are not reconciled to breaking up with me, but I can't get over the hurdle of you and your supervisor during your internship." I was stunned. So, this is his true thought. After that incident, while he said he didn't blame me, even at this time, he still wants to mislead others with understated remarks and make it seem like it's my problem? So ridiculous. I sneered. "Santiago, you misjudged me. I never regard that incident as my shame. Sending a molester to prison is definitely not a topic I am ashamed to mention. It is my medal. I don't think I am dirty. On the contrary, I think I am braver." Santiago finally couldn't hold back and blurted out, "I can't help but mind." "Since you mind, then why didn't you directly break up with me but choose to cheat? Why? Are you reluctant to give up being the pretend hero?" I hit his truest thought. He gritted his teeth and couldn't say a word. His face flushed iron gray. The bridesmaid supported the tottering geranium and glared at me. Francisco. Even if you are not reconciled to being dumped, there is no need to ruin the wedding of this young couple. Do you understand that it is better to demolish a temple than break up a marriage? Could it be that no one wants you anymore? So desperately clinging to Santiago. Dad Xiao was obviously unhappy when he looked at Santiago. But after all, he loved his pregnant daughter. Miss, you can discuss any demands you have. There is no need to tear things apart and make everyone embarrassed. As the saying goes, be lenient whenever possible. Did you spare me? I scanned Santiago and Geranium, who chased me to my house and asked me to come to the wedding to be a foil and prove how noble and innocent your love is. I turned to Dad Xiao. Don't give me these high-sounding reasons. I only know that if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I will definitely offend them. Dad Xiao's face darkened. As an elder, he couldn't directly tear things apart, so he arranged for others to continue eating. Then he turned his head and scolded, "Where are the security guards? Take her out." A happy ending is engraved in the bones and blood of most Chinese people. After recovering from the explosive news, people began to discuss my actions. No matter how dissatisfied you are, you can't make trouble at someone's wedding. This woman is not a good person. So aggressive. No wonder Santiago dumped her. You can't say that either. Who told Santiago to cheat and have the thick skin to invite his ex-girlfriend to the wedding? If it were me, I would also make a big fuss. Peace is precious. Can't we sit down and discuss things properly? Amid the discussions, Edwin didn't know when he came. He stood at the entrance and clapped calmly. I was extremely surprised. Why are you here? After I accepted Santiago's invitation, I thought about asking Edwin to come and help me hold the fort. The message was edited but then deleted. I felt it was unnecessary. Too childish. As if I still cared so much about Santiago. Unexpectedly, Edwin came on his own. He walked up to me and said in a volume only I could hear, "Ami called me this morning and said that Aunt was being bullied by bad guys. She asked me to bring her magic wand and turn them all into pigs. Here you are." He stuffed a ball of the fairy's magic wand into my hand. I raised my hand. The pink magic wand shone brightly in my hand, and the serious occasion suddenly became less serious. Santiago seemed to have caught my handle and said hurriedly, "Francisco, you hooked up with Edwin long ago. How can you have the nerve to say me? What nonsense are you talking? He wrote you a love letter in high school. Don't pretend you don't know anything." I really didn't know this. I seem to have heard the biggest joke in the world. Your ability to shift the blame is really good. You act so angry. It seems like I cheated on you and got someone else pregnant. My words are too vulgar. It made Santiago jump up immediately and directed the security guards who rushed over. It's these two people who are making trouble. Take them out quickly. The more I looked at him, the more I felt that I had been blind. The security guards walked towards us. Geranium regained her pride. Francisco, we are not from the same world after all. I held Edwin's hand and wanted to take him away. Anyway, I had already vented my anger. Santiago had completely become a stranger to me. There was no need to drag Edwin into embarrassment. I didn't pull him. He gave me a small smile and patted the back of my hand reassuringly. Then he said to Dad Xiao, who was deep in thought, "Uncle Xiao, the tea you sent to my dad a few days ago. He likes it very much." Dad Xiao suddenly realized and his attitude became respectful immediately. "So it's young Master Shen. I am really blind," he said to the security guards again. "It's all a misunderstanding. Thank you for your trouble." The security guards looked at me and then at each other, and left in puzzlement. Edwin said calmly, "I don't know if we can take advantage of my dad and stay for a meal?" Dad Xiao hurriedly said, "Of course. Of course." Geranium was anxious. Dad Xiao didn't bear to hit his daughter. Instead, he slapped Santiago. "Don't disgrace me." Santiago hung his head, not knowing what he was thinking. I watched with great interest. What a good show. The meal continued as usual. Santiago, with his swollen face, and Geranium sat at the main table, being looked at like monkeys in a zoo. They really have strong psychological quality. They can endure this. What a touching true love. I raised my eyebrows and gave Santiago a small smile. He immediately felt humiliated. His face twitched and there was even a hint of hatred in his eyes. After the absurd banquet ended, Santiago actually came to find me and Edwin. As soon as he opened his mouth, it was disgusting words. Do you know that Francisca tried to seduce her supervisor for a job confirmation during her internship in senior year? Why do you want such a slut? Are you an idiot? I widened my eyes and swung my arm round to slap him. Santiago grabbed my hand. His eyes were bloodshot and he was like a ghost. You drank alcohol and deliberately stayed until the end. You also asked me to pick you up after work. Isn't it to leave time for you too? You must blame me in your heart for ruining your plan by arriving early. Don't think I don't know. You also hooked up with your department leader. If it weren't for King telling me, I would have been kept in the dark by you all along. Obviously, that dead pig wanted to take advantage of me through unspoken rules. I scolded him harshly. He held a grudge and deliberately suppressed and isolated me. Santiago, we have known each other for almost 20 years. Touch your heart and think. Am I that kind of person? There was a flash of struggle in Santiago's eyes. Soon, he said affirmatively again, you can't judge a person just by their appearance. Edwin suddenly grabbed Santiago's collar and punched him in the face. Ah, Santiago cried out. Shook off my hand and tried to fight back. Edwin nimbly dodged and took the opportunity to kick Santiago's knee. Santiago cried out in pain and knelt down directly. Edwin pressed him to the ground. His face as cold as frost and full of murderous aura, apologized to Francisco. Who do you think you are? Let me go. He punched Santiago in the face again and said in a flat tone, apologized to Francisco. This was the first time I had seen Edwin so aggressive. I was frightened. After realizing it, I quickly pulled him. There are surveillance cameras here. If we really hurt Santiago, we won't be able to run away. Edwin, I don't need his apology. I easily pulled Edwin up. He slowly tittied up his messy suit and regained his refined appearance. I breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Santiago, who was getting up by leaning on the wall with disgust. Do you really think I want to climb up by unspoken rules? No, it's just that you have always been about that night's incident. After graduating, you met the daughter of the general manager, Geranium, and fell in love with someone else. So you pour all the dirty water on me. It would be best if I were really the kind of woman who would do anything to climb up as you think. Then your cheating behavior would seem so just and you would have no sense of guilt. You can naturally think that I am a bad woman, and you don't need to be sincere to a bad woman. No, Santiago. I, Francisco, am open and above board. But you and Geranium. I looked at the woman behind him who was looking at me resentfully and said word by word, you are despicable and lowly. A perfect match. I wish you 100 years of happiness. After going out, I got into Edwin's car and sat in the passenger seat. I lowered my head, my body trembling, and didn't speak for a long time. A slender hand appeared under my eyelids, along with a tissue. I looked up and let him see the smile on my face clearly. Edwin, I didn't cry. I feel very relaxed. I have walked out. At that time, Santiago's cheating and the blow in my career came one after another. I was at a loss and confused. So I escaped back to my hometown and hid in my comfort zone. I doubted if I had done something wrong that everything was going wrong. Now I understand that Santiago's cheating is not because I am not good. It's because I am so good that it makes him look so dirty. The work is not going well because the leader is an idiot. Just change it. I can't be troubled by unworthy people or things for too long. People who love me will be sad. This matter has completely become a thing of the past for me. From now on, whether Santiago and Geranium are happy or broken, they have nothing to do with me. There was a hint of warmth and nostalgia in Edwin's eyebrows. Well, you are still the same as before. When it comes to the past. My ears perked up and I asked curiously, did you write me a love letter in high school? Why didn't I see it? Judging from Santiago's appearance, it was probably him who hid it back then. Edwin didn't deny it and said softly, yes. I have liked you for a long time. I said goodbye to my mom, took my luggage and returned to Shenzhen, the place where my dream began. My mom didn't ask anything, just like she didn't ask why I resigned and came back. She packed my favorite local specialties and secretly stuffed a big red envelope into my luggage. I look for a job again. Strangely, I sent more than 100 resumes in a week, but didn't get a single interview. My work experience is not rich, but my major is suitable. Moreover, among the scripts I wrote in my previous company, one was on the hot list for a week in a row. How could it be that I didn't get a single interview? A strange text message answered my doubts. People who offend me will not have a good end. I immediately thought of a person geranium. I was so angry that I laughed. On an impulse, I sent my resume to my dream company, the top in the industry. I didn't have confidence in myself. I originally planned to hone myself for a few more years before trying. Unexpectedly, in the afternoon of that day, I received an interview invitation. I went for the interview early the next morning. In the first 10 minutes, the interviewer asked some basic questions. Later, another interviewer came and asked more than a dozen professional questions in succession. At the end of the interview, my back was already soaked. As soon as I walked out of the company, I received the news of passing the initial interview and was asked to choose an outline within 2 days and complete the script content of the first 5 episodes. As if inspired, I finished writing it in 5 hours that afternoon and sent it over. Before their company got off work, I received a call from HR to discuss salary. Everything went smoothly. When I sat at my workstation, I felt like I was dreaming. I want to thank someone. So I deliberately took a screenshot of that text message and posted a circle of friends. Thank you for pushing me. My dream has come true. Not long after my circle of friends was posted, a former colleague chatted with me and said that her colleague upstairs, who often slacked off with her, told her that Geranium had been crying. I made a big fuss before I left. They knew my relationship with Santiago, so they often came to gossip with me. I replied with a smile, crying brings peace. On Friday night, after finishing a week's work, I bought a lot of food to reward myself. I met Edwin downstairs. It had been a month since we last met. He said he liked me. I said thank you. My next step is to look for a job. Then, we tacitly remained silent. When we met again, I thought it would be awkward, but when I looked into his eyes, I subconsciously smiled. He also tugged at the corner of his mouth, and a hint of tiredness appeared. Then, he made a strange request. Can I go up and rest for a while? I am even stranger. I let him come up. Edwin sat on the sofa and sighed. A few days ago, Grandma's condition suddenly worsened. I was with her in the hospital and haven't slept for several days. My heart was moved. I got up and turned off the light in the living room, leaving only the kitchen light on. Thank you. His lips curved slightly. He tilted his head, leaned against the wall, and closed his eyes. The dim light shone on his face. So gentle. I sat opposite, and looked at him quietly. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in from the half-open window. That was the wind of memories. I seemed to go back to high school. One night, the head teacher showed us a movie. We sat in the last row. I secretly played with my phone hidden in the desk drawer. Suddenly, his head leaned over and rested on my shoulder. As I turned my head, I saw his dark circles. I remembered hearing someone say that his parents signed him up for a bunch of tutoring classes. So his grades were so good. With so many tutoring classes, is there enough sleep time? I love sleeping so much that I can very much empathize with the pain of lack of sleep. So I didn't have the heart to wake him up and let him sleep for 2 classes. It wasn't until the movie was almost over that I poked him awake. When he first woke up, he looked confused. After seeing me, he suddenly blushed and said softly, "Thank you." When I woke up the next day, he had already left. There was breakfast he made in a note with "thank you" written on it on the table. His coming and leaving were both very sudden. And next time I heard about Edwin was a month later. He called me and told me, "My grandma is gone. Are you available to come back tomorrow?" I was shocked and sad. After a long time, I said, "Condolences." I immediately asked for leave and attended Grandma Shen's funeral. At the funeral, I saw Edwin's parents. Two very serious middle-aged people. There was no obvious sadness on their faces. As soon as the funeral ended, they left Edwin to deal with the remaining matters and flew abroad to talk about business. Looking at their backs as they left, Edwin's straight back gradually collapsed. His eyes were empty. "Francisco, I don't have grandma anymore." He was so sad. I accompanied him to send off all the guests and sat in Grandma's garden. Grandma has gone to a very beautiful place without paying. There is Grandpa there. They are happily together. At this moment, he was like a child and stubbornly asked, "Will she miss me?" "Yes." I held his hand. "Her love for you will never stop." Edwin slowly leaned over and hugged me. I didn't push him away. I embraced his sadness. Edwin locked the iron gate of Grandma's house and returned to Shenzhen with me. He entered his father's company, which is in the next office building. After coming out of Grandma's passing, he was like a male peacock exuding charm all the time. He held flowers and waited for me to get off work downstairs of the company every day. He didn't know where he saw the guide. As a person who returned from studying abroad, he knew more about the delicacies in various districts than I, who had studied in Shenzhen for years. He took me to different places with different delicacies every day. On my birthday, he set off fireworks all over the sky for me and asked if I would be with him. I touched the extra flesh on my stomach and said with tears in my eyes, "If I don't agree, I will be raised into a pig by you." Edwin's eyes were red and his voice trembled as he said, "Then I can." He stammered and couldn't finish his words. I helped him and said with a smile, "You can kiss me." He tightly held my waist, like an inexperienced young man, and bit my tongue. On the way back, I was sulking and ignored him. After the car stopped, he took out a box in a pleasing way. I was angry but couldn't help being curious. I peeked with my peripheral vision. He directly stuffed the box into my hand. After I opened it, it was an emerald green bracelet. "This is for you from Grandma." He took out the bracelet and gently put it on for me, saying thank you for liking me the most. I seemed to see that white-haired old woman again. She looked at me kindly and said, "You are the person our Nanzu likes the most." I said guiltily, I lied to her at that time. I am really a bad person. What about now? I held his face. "I like you the most now." A smile bloomed on Edwin's fair face, gentle as spring water. This is enough. Edwin's extra chapter. Francisco is a strange girl. Her grades are not good. She is always in the bottom dozen or so in the class. Once, she even ranked 5th from the bottom. She didn't care at all. That day, I accidentally saw the note she passed to her good friend. "My mom said she will make baked prawns today. They are so delicious." Yes, she only has eating and sleeping on her mind. At the parents' meeting after the midterm exam, her mother came. Her mother looked very much like her and was smiling. Francisco was at the bottom of the class and only got a score of more than 20 in physics. I thought her mother would be angry. Unexpectedly, she turned to praise Francisco's best friend's mother and said, "Our Francisco got 124 in Chinese and 55 in composition. That's really great." The secret? She just likes reading. She reads all kinds of books. This child is just so eager to learn. Her physics is not good. So what? You can't expect a child to be perfect in everything. Francisco was at the door, poking her head in and smiling too. But I got the first place in the class. My parents asked me why I wasn't more careful when I was just a little short of a full score in geography. They made me feel suffocated. The half year when I was in the same class as Francisco was the most relaxing time for me. She was like the sun, continuously emitting energy. After the class division, I summoned up my courage and wrote a love letter to her. Then, I saw that love letter in Santiago's hand. After that, Santiago was carrying her school bag and they walked out of the class together. My unrequited love ended without a problem. Until 6 years later, I saw her at the parents' meeting. A flower quietly bloomed in my heart again, half a year after entering the new company. A former colleague told me that they were jointly reporting the idiot leader for sexual harassment and asked if I would like to join. I was extremely willing. With our joint efforts, his long-term actions of taking liberties with female subordinates by taking advantage of his power were exposed. At first, the company wanted to suppress it. But this matter was posted online. Under the fermentation of public opinion, the company had to fire the idiot leader. He was detained for 10 days. After coming out, his reputation was completely ruined. I'm afraid he won't be able to find a decent job in the future. That day, a strange number sent me a sentence. I'm sorry. I knew who it was. But I don't need a belated apology. On the day when Edwin and I got our marriage license, I heard from Santiago's senior that Santiago and Geranium were having a divorce. Dad Xiao had been on guard against Santiago after their marriage. Santiago had been in the company for 3 years. Those who entered the company with him either left or got promoted. Only he was still stuck in the same place. At a drinking party, Santiago quarreled with Dad Xiao. Only then did he know that Dad Xiao didn't trust his character and thought that once he became successful, he would definitely kick Geranium aside. Santiago's face was very ugly and he even made a fuss about divorce. He accused Geranium of being overly suspicious and checking his phone every day. He accused Dad Xiao of targeting him and preventing him from showing his talent. He was even dissatisfied with the child and made a fuss about going for a paternity test. Geranium really loved him. She didn't break up even with all this. The two of them had small fights every 3 days and big fights every 5 days. Even if the senior didn't tell me, I knew that Santiago must be very uncomfortable. Otherwise, why would he call me with different phones? However, this has nothing to do with me. I have my own scenery and won't linger for unworthy people.